to the Philip Cochran channel, viewers. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It helps this channel grow, and it helps me bring you these great videos that we all love. So on today's show, we've got another unboxing, assembly, radio setup, and pre-flight test of the E-Flite F-15 Eagle 64mm EDF jet. Here's a little quick look at the box before we pull it out. There's a few more pieces to this unboxing, even though it's a small box. It's not a very big plane. It's a plane. Got a very long history, the F-15. Very iconic jet model. It's got a kind of unique livery on this one, as you can see. Okay, our instruction manual was put right into the top here. There's nothing on the bottom of this carton. You can see how it comes here. It's very well packaged. Everything's really placed in there very well. Now there's some gluing involved in this plane, so it will not be going back in the box. At least not the way they have packaged it. Stuff out of the way here. Start putting out some pieces. Alright, so first up here is one of our wings. Take a look at that. Really nice paint scheme that they have on here. You can see the decal pre-installed there and our aileron. And we've got a little plastic receiver here where our screw's going to go through, and you can see where our rod's going to go through right there. And there's our other wing. So we get another piece to almost exactly the same as the first one. Again, our servo's pre-installed there. There's one more. See, it's got a little plastic receiver thing to go on to the plane, which is nice. There's two of them. Goes down there a little bit. We've got our nose cone, which is gray. This part here is hard plastic, and it's got a magnetic attachment thing on it, which is nice to break away. Looks like our rear stabilizers, our elevator. So these will be our horizontals here. This plane doesn't have a rudder on it. Not a working rudder anyway. It says vertical stabilizing fins, stabs, if you want to call them. So a little landing gear, basic little wired landing gear. There's a little bit of ribbing on the treads there, which nice little detail. We've got some connection rods, links. Going to have to be installed. Looks like that is our front wheel down there. It does have a steerable nose wing, and if you're looking for an interesting little tip, I saw Brian Phillips RC put a little rudder. He made a little small rudder out of just a piece of plastic on the front wheel, and it was actually pretty effective on it. It was kind of better than having no rudder. And here is our piece de resistance, our fuselage. Ready? Look at this beauty. Really nice detail they have on it. All the panel lines and everything like that. It is a scale replica of the F-15. Take a look at the bottom here. Now it is a single 64mm EDF jet, which is uncommon in the smaller ones, right? So while the real F-15 is a dual jet engine, this is a single one inside it that propels out the two back there. See the back there, and I don't know if it's showing the fan up inside it there or not, but we'll pull the canopy off and put a light down it. Nice little cockpit detail, so you can see where our wings are going to attach. There's some hard plastic mounts, and where our rod's going to go through our aileron connection. We've got our rear servos here for our rear elevator. And these are the vertical stabilizers. These are the pieces that are going to get glued on. Some people call them fins. So let's start the assembly. Okay, so the first part of the assembly, they ask you to put the landing gear on. So the front wheel's pretty straightforward. It's got a little slot on this rod here, so make sure your set screw is tightening up on that slot so it gives the plane the full turning ability. And then on the back they've got these little plastic pockets that the wire frame of the wheel sits in, as you can see. And then there's a little capture plate that goes in there. There's a little plate that has a little slot around the front to go around the wheel, and then there's a little tab at the back that sits in the pocket here. So just one construction note, this wheel sat in that little pocket just fine. This one here was very tight, so I just kind of made a little kind of adjustments to the wire a little bit, squeezed it a little bit so it wasn't so bad to sit down in this pocket, in case yours is like that too. So we're going to screw that together and get the landing gear on, and then the next stage is to assemble the wings. Okay, so our landing gear is installed. These pieces are a little bit more fiddly than you want them to be. You kind of have to put the little plate and the metal wheel down in the pocket at the same time to get them around that little notch and stuff there. And then our so the next thing is our wing assembly. So I've already put the spar through the plane. It goes in there loose, but there's a little bit of connections need to be done here. So we're going to connect this lead here up to this one here. It does have the little tabs that help lock it in, and then push it onto the spar. And then we've got the 4 machine screws that are going to go through here. So I'm going to just do that on each side, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, our wings are done. It's pretty straightforward assembly. Did have to put a little bit of pressure on them though to get the screws to line up in the little brass inserts that are there, but it will work. And I also cut the little tab that was on the thing that said aileron on there, because that looked a bit ugly. So next onto the tail, and I think we're going to get rid of the stand here because it's going to interfere with putting on our rear elevator assembly. Okay, so the tail assembly is going to involve some gluing here. You're going to be gluing on your rudders and your elevators. So there's some paint's been cleared away here, and there's a hole like a pin for that to go through, and the lettering's on the outside, so you can't really mix them up about which one goes where. So those are going to get glued on like that, and then your elevator, how does it go here, is going to get glued onto the bottom. So it's got like a little slot, you know, or pocket carved out of it, right? Lots of surface area, so you know, make sure everything fits together before I do the hard gluing. And then we have to hook up our elevator links to these elevators once they're glued on, and then we'll be ready to put a battery in it. Okay, another little quick assembly tip here. I noticed on this one rudder here that the bottom isn't quite smooth. You can see it's got a little bit of a tab sticking up here. Maybe you can see it better on that side. And you really want this thing to be sitting flat here. Now the other side doesn't have it. It's pretty smack. It looks like they've actually carved that away and made it fit down, you know, flatter onto the fuselage here. Have a better glue contact surface. So I'm going to take a razor blade and just, you know, very, very carefully trim that down so it sits a little bit flatter in this pocket. You can see it when it's on the plane here. It doesn't want to, you know, there's a big gap in between there. It sits fairly flat and straight, but it could be better. So just a little tip for you guys. I almost thought that these were missing, but they're in one of the top braces of the plane when you unbox it there. So these are the little rockets there, and they ask you to glue these onto the side of these pods here. So you can see there's a little tab on the pod and then a little tab on the rocket there, and you're gonna glue those on there like that, so it's gonna end up being on there permanently. Okay, the tail went together pretty good. There's just 2 things of note here. So the servo, I put the links in, but I haven't connected them yet because we're going to turn on the radio and make sure that these servos are centered first. But we're supposed to go into the center hole here on the servo horn and to the outermost horn here on the elevators. And this is very tight going through, pushing through these rods here. Now you want it to be snug, but it's very, very tight the first push through here. So if you're not too familiar with servos, you might want to take that arm off, push it through there, and then re-screw it back on. And you can see this side here, it lines up pretty good, and it looks like the length isn't going to be too bad here. But on this side here, they don't really have this 90-degree bend that's going through the horn quite well here. As you can see, the rod's pretty crooked. So I can push it over to be able to connect it, but it's putting quite a bit of pressure up here on the linkage and our gears and stuff. So I'm going to take this link off and rebend this a little bit better so it's straighter to connect up. And then just one thing, note on the gluing here. You might want to take some time, like I said, to get these surfaces to made up nice in the dry fitting here, because there is quite a bit of surface area to glue, and it was a little tricky getting the tail and stuff glued together here nice and flat without a little bit of a gap. It looks like there's a little bit of a gap on the inside, but it's not too bad. So so let's get the radio going, get a battery in this thing, and center up these servos. Okay, so the radio model number is EFL 975-1. That's this plane. So when you click on it, you'll see that it's the F-15 Eagle import model. Usually takes a second to do, and there you go, it's already up. So let's get a battery ready and see what she's like. Okay, we're all finished. It looks beautiful. I really love this paint scheme. So as you can hear, we've already got AS3X happening. That's what that little noise is. And it bound to the radio the very first time as soon as I loaded that model. I put safe select as my on the gear switch. So I just did the 2 sticks down and in and flip the switch back and forth 5 times, or until you hear it do something. Sometimes it's more than 5 times. There is no throttle cut pre-programmed into this, so you might want to be mindful of that before you put the battery into it. I still have to put mine on, but you can hear the. Now this is just on a 3-cell right now because I haven't changed the plug in this, and I just wanted to point out another thing is that there's quite a few wires stuffed into this little small area here, and you'll see when I move the rudder, which is turning the front wheel, it's actually pushing some of those wires around. So I'm going to take a few minutes to clean that up because I don't want to get any kind of short or any kind of mechanical blockage in there. So you might want to do the same on your plane. And yeah, other than that, it looks like we're ready for our maiden flight, which hopefully comes soon if we can get some agreeable weather. So that's our show for you today, folks. Love and peace from Canada, and we are YouTube.